All right, welcome to the first episode of Good, Bad, and Ugly. This is a short little video series that Justice and I want to start up, where we're going to look at three plays from NFL draft prospect called Bad, One, Ugly. And Justice isn't here today, but he's breaking down the Senior Bowl on his timeline, so you can go follow him at Jumosq at JUMOSQ. So with me today, I have one of my favorite followers on Twitter, really smart, really funny, intelligent guy, Diante Lee. What's up, Diante?
What's going on,
Nothing much. We actually tried to record this last week with Cephas, but I can be a bonehead with technology sometimes, so we got kind of screwed with that.
It's all right, man. We had a few technical difficulties when we tried to run that the first time.
Yeah. So Cephas couldn't be here on this time. He's got strep throat or something, so I'm going to get him on in a few weeks or maybe even next week to talk about Jaleel Johnson, the Iowa defensive tackle. So today we're going to break down three plays from Deshaun Watson's game versus Louisville, and I brought Diante in to that because he knows more about game planning and looking at schemes and coverages than I do. I just kind of like looking at the front seven offensive line guys. So we're just going to jump right into this. We're going to screen share. Let's see. Go to the entire screen. Okay. Can you see that?
Yeah, I'm up.
Okay, so this is the first play. This is a touchdown pass to Artavis Scott, if my memory serves me correctly. Right. And 3-by-1 set. So why don't you just talk about what you see here, and I'll run it through at like half speed.
So once you run the clip, you'll see it. The first thing I thought about, actually, I'm not sure if you'll remember this or if Broncos fans will remember this, but this was a favorite of Peyton Manning's down in the red zone. This kind of follow route, they would just run it back along the back line of the end zone, but it's pretty much just going to be a chase. As Cephas called it, I call it a follow, but the terminology is pretty much the same here. When you get to the bunch look, you're pretty much taking away at least one defensive back. If you get a natural pick there, they're able to eliminate two, which really kind of helps the timing of the route. And then you see Deshaun Watson, as I had mentioned before, as soon as that back foot hits the grass at the bottom of his drop, he's ready to fire out, and he gets the ball where it needs to be. And they convert a pretty easy touchdown here.
Yeah, I remember last time we recorded this, you were talking about the different, kind of a preference on delivering the ball high or low. So,
right.
I mean, some people might say you want to deliver this a little bit low because he's kind of taking a headshot and a kill shot in the air. But if he delivers that low, then he might get his head knocked off by that safety.
Exactly. And ball placement and things like this are like purely situational. So a lot of people get kind of caught up in expecting a certain thing to look the same way every time. But like I said, when he puts the ball high here, because his receiver goes up, doesn't necessarily high point the ball, but catches the ball at about his chest area, his head is above wherever he could be contacted. So pretty much the only way this defender could get any kind of solid contact on him would be to take a targeting penalty and eliminate himself from the rest of the game. So the ball placement all worked out here. If he throws it low, you're kind of subjecting yourself to a review if the ball is juggled at all. If he gets hit pretty good, I don't know if he's going to hold on to this ball. So I think that where he placed it was probably exactly where it needed to be.
Yeah, and another thing I like about this play that we talked about last time was, a pre-snap read of kind of eliminating Mike Williams here at the bottom of the screen because he's bracketed before the play even starts, and that makes sense. He was Clemson's best receiver, and he's a monster in the red zone. So he's bracketed before the play even starts. So that's a read in itself. That does count as reading the defense, and if you can eliminate that before the play even starts, and that just makes your read to Scott on the back end or to the field side even faster.
Right. And I was listening to you guys on Setting the Edge. I believe the last podcast you released, and you were talking about kind of the Mike Shula influence on Dabo Swinney and the offense that he runs. And this is a lot of it. You can compare a lot of this to the Panthers offense, and really just a lot, maybe even I would even go as far as to say a little bit of the Packers offense as well, where a lot of this is about trying to see if you can generate a one-on-one matchup with your best player. And if it's not there, then you got a concept on the other side that you can work. So here, Deshaun sees his safety. He's going to be sitting right at the goal line, looking to see if he can take away any slants or fades, and he knows that. So he comes right off of that before the snap and works the bunch and works a little bunch progression and gets exactly what he wants. So, like you were saying, this is just as much a read as anything else. I know everybody gets kind of caught up in like the full field progressions and all of that, but that's not necessarily realistic. You're not running a 4-man route combination every snap in the NFL. Being able to do something like this is important in tight situations like this where you know that the timing's got to be perfect.
Yep. And I mean, even just like kind of looking at the dynamics of the play, I really like, this little route by Jordan Leggett, I think, to kind of pull that linebacker
Right.
towards the sideline, and then Scott just comes right back in for the touchdown.
Right. Yeah. This is a very well executed play. I mean, Leggett knows here because he's getting pressed that he can't waste a lot of time trying to be physical with this dude. Otherwise, the routes behind it aren't going to work. Right. So he gets a nice little outside release, and that naturally takes away the corner that was outside here on the bunch. So now, like I said, you've got a one-on-one matchup across the board, pretty much with the routes that you want to work. He makes the right decision and puts it right where it needs to be.
Yep. So that was the good play that we chose, and here's the end zone view that we're going to see real quick. I'll play that in full speed. Bang. All right, second play. This was the bad play, and it was a dropped interception by the cornerback.
Yeah. So what we're going to get here is kind of a drive concept. So you've got the little shallow cross, and then you've got a dig route here. The initial, I mean, before we even know about how this play turns out, this is actually a pretty good idea by Clemson to have their big guy run the dig and have Mike Williams come underneath. What you would like to have happen is get Mike Williams singled up on a linebacker or safety, somebody he can run away from with his speed that you can just dump it off to. I think Louisville kind of schemed it up pretty well. If you're just looking at the bottom of the screen where he threw the ball here, you see they've got a high-low bracket on that dig route. They've actually got a pretty quick guy trailing Mike Williams. So if it were me, I mean, if I'm watching film with Deshaun, if we're going to run this playback, what I'm probably going to tell him is to work the top half of your progression a little bit longer, especially since you have these two routes in the drive concept coming all the way across the field. There's no real rush to try to put this ball here if it's not open immediately. And what you'll see is kind of like not necessarily like a switch verticals concept, but it's built in the same kind of way where these guys are going to work their vertical stems, and then the outside receiver is going to start working towards the sideline. The inside receiver is going to kind of work a skinny post type. They got a 2-man look up top. So once his slot receiver kind of beats that guy's leverage and gets him turned around, if I'm a coach, I'm telling Deshaun Watson, hey, man, you got to know that you got athletes here in the slot. Let them work their routes, and then you can make your decision off of that. There's no real rush to try to throw this dig. And I think because he kind of fell in love with what he thought he was seeing, he makes a premature throw and almost gets that picked off.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, that was really great analysis. And I remember last week when we were talking about this, if we had just had Wayne Gallman just peel out into the flat for just even a second, maybe that corner hesitates for just a second, even though he's playing man coverage on Mike Williams with the safety of the top, but maybe he hesitates for just a second and gives you a bigger window to get that ball in.
Exactly.
But yeah, you got to get you probably want to throw this ball or even that skinny post coming across the field, because that safety isn't really in position to make that play, and he already has his release there.
Yeah, this was just a matter of, and he kind of falls into this track every once in a while where I think he understands the offense and knows what he wants to throw, and I think that influences a little bit too much what decision he makes. He'll get an initial look, and I think that off the initial look, he's assuming that certain things are going to happen. In a lot of ways, it's what Jameis Winston kind of struggled with his second year after winning that national championship, thinking that he knew exactly what was going to happen just based off of what he was seeing pre-snap and falling in love with a certain read. That was definitely something that I think led to a lot of his interceptions and kind of more and some of his more poor throws throughout the year.
Yeah, I agree. And, you can even see when he's releasing that ball, come on, dude, that cornerback is right there.
Right. This throw was never there.
You got to see that. And, sometimes I wonder, I mean, I haven't studied Clemson's offense in depth, or looked at any like Dabo Swinney coaching clinics videos or
Mm-hmm.
anything. But sometimes I wonder if he has the he seems pretty entranced on this side of the field before the ball's even snapped. And you already have a numbers mismatch right here with the safety and the cornerback.
Exactly.
But I wonder if he has the responsibility or has the leeway to kind of peel that read to the backside, because if he takes his eyes off Jordan Leggett for just a second and comes back to the middle of the field, that's a
they probably score. Yeah, I'd say they probably score here if he makes that throw. And I'm glad you kind of mentioned that. It's hard to tell. I only have like Chad Morris's playbook from when he was coaching there, and I've looked up a little bit of stuff on Clemson's offense. But I mean, you never really know on a week-to-week basis what they're looking to get. This may have been something they game planned in, where if they're in the boundary, they think they're going to get a certain kind of coverage look, and they want to work a certain kind of progression against that. So that may have been a part of it. There are a lot of kind of scheme interceptions you see both in college and in the NFL, because guys kind of fall in love with what they've seen throughout the practice week, see it on game week, and kind of assume that it's exactly what they thought they were seeing, and it's not necessarily the case. Like you're saying, I mean, if he uses his eyes a little bit more, especially because he wasn't being pressured that tough, he can definitely hit that skinny post and probably score here.
Yeah, because look at when I think that's Artavis Scott right there. When he starts driving on that vertical stem, that corner gets his hips completely flipped outside, and he hasn't beat. And we've seen Deshaun make that throw up the seam plenty of times during his college career. So I think that's just him being fixated on what he thinks he has. And even then, this is a really great play by the cornerback.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the guy has to lay out just to get his hands on it.
Yeah. And I thought, Leggett kind of beats him initially first. So I think maybe he sees that this cornerback is in a position where he knows Leggett's cutting aside, and he just kind of assumes that Leggett's going to beat him to the spot. But I think, that's pretty good recovery speed right there to get back in front of that ball.
Yeah, that's a hell of a play. I mean, at the end of the day, that is a hell of a play by the DB.
Yeah. All right, we're going to get this play for the end zone view before we go to the ugly play, which was just awful.
Probably my least favorite throw of his all year.
Yeah. Yeah, just dropped it. All right, so this was an interception on the goal line. So this was an RPO, and he sees that the linebackers are flowing down, and that safety is kind of rotating down to his force responsibility. So he knows that he's gonna have one-on-one with his best target across the middle for a touchdown, and he whiffs real bad on this throw.
Yeah, I mean, an underthrow to the wrong shoulder leaves it hanging so the guy can get underneath it and make that pick. I'm really kind of curious. I'd love to know exactly why he made the decision he made in the first place, because if this is like a pre-snap kind of RPO where you're just looking at numbers in the box and then kind of going off of that, I guess I might be able to see a pull read, but you're still looking at an overhang weak side, an overhang strong side, and then two linebackers in the box. I mean, that's a relatively stacked box here to try to run the ball against. So I'm not sure if he just got the keep read off of that. And then from there, I mean, you see that safety kind of sitting in the hole. So where he put the ball doesn't match what the kind of initial coverage look was either. So I'm really kind of curious if this was just a decision he had made because he knows he has an athlete in Mike Williams to throw the ball to.
Yeah, I mean, but that safety, like kind of hanging out right here, right? Right here.
He drops down.
He drops down, but he didn't even like react to the pass being thrown really until it was too late.
Yeah,
so
that's a good.
I do like the decision to kind of say, look, I got one of like the top 3 receivers in the country, and we're in the red zone. I'm just going to give him a chance here. If he's got one-on-one, most quarterbacks, the best targeted chance to catch the ball against one-on-one. But I mean, the throw here was just awful, and you can even see when after he fakes a handoff and pulls it back, he's not even like on balance with his footwork. And you can get a better look at that in the end zone view.
Right, exactly. I mean, you can see where he finishes his throw. He kind of takes that little rocker step right before he delivers it, which lets me know that he's not light on his feet at all. You know, if you're light on your feet, your heels probably should never touch the ground here. You just give a quick little kind of like a quick little token fake, and then you deliver that ball the way you're supposed to. But yeah, this kind of goes to what we were talking about with him assuming things previously. You know, I think that this is him trusting his wide receiver and then his own throwing ability a little bit too much here, you know, and not being as sharp as he needs to be.
Yeah. So you can see right when he's kind of fading away from the throw, and it's not even really
Right.
like he has to, because that guard is still in front of the defensive tackle or the linebacker right here. So I mean, if he just takes one step to kind of recalibrate, step right here where he has the hole, and that guy's not getting beat, that guy's not getting beat. I mean, that should be an easy throw for a touchdown.
Right. You know, and when people kind of nitpick about pocket awareness, this is one of the things where I think it's a little bit legitimate. He didn't seem to make this kind of mistake much the year before when they lost to Alabama in the national title game. I'm not sure if he was trying to press a little bit more to make certain kinds of plays, but I mean, just that he's getting guard leads him to a certain direction, and Deshaun follows that guard's direction and pretty much walks himself into some extra pressure that he didn't have to. You know, so he's costing himself there mentally by not stepping up away from where that pressure is going and then being able to deliver a nice throw here.
Yep. And I mean, even this was a pretty nice catch by the cornerback too.
Yeah.
To kind of come back. I think that might be the same guy as the pass breakup.
Yeah, I think you might be right. You may be right. Which, I mean, at the end of the day here, he knows he's wrong, because if you take a look at the end zone, I mean, there's nothing but grass.
Yeah.
There's just nothing but grass. You can put this anywhere. You can put this in between the goalposts for all I care. You know,
Yeah.
that guy's an athlete. Let him go get it.
And just off balance, shaky. I mean, you have no chance if you're just he never even sets his second foot down before he lets go of that ball. That's like some Johnny
Exactly.
Manziel shit.
Exactly. Exactly.
Never had a chance. So, what are your kind of we'll just kind of look at a broader view. What are your kind of initial thoughts and analysis on Deshaun Watson? Like, how high do you think he should go in the draft?
From a skill standpoint alone, it's really hard to kind of select minuses. I don't know. The way that I kind of I've been looking at quarterbacks now, or really scouting in general, is kind of grading what the pluses is up against other people. So when I look at his arm strength, it's not a minus, but you look at a guy like Patrick Mahomes, and his plus is definitely a little bit more significant in arm strength than what a Deshaun Watson may be. You know, decision making, I think he's fine. You know, he is mobile. He's not necessarily explosive, but he can definitely move around. When I look at him, it's interesting because he kind of fits the prototype that I think a lot of NFL kind of personnel were saying that they would have wished a Colin Kaepernick would be. You know, if we could get a Colin Kaepernick who could be a good decision maker as a passer, who could put the ball all over the field and place it well, that's a lot of what I get out of him at his best. You know, I try not to focus so much on the worst of it, because I don't think that all of those issues are uncorrectable. You know, he's definitely not at a position where I feel like I should be worried about any of the things that he had problems with this year. You know, so I think he's a first round kind of guy. This quarterback class is a little funny. It kind of depends on how you feel about the best prospects here. There's definitely a pretty big drop off after the first tier of guys, but he could definitely be a day one player. I know that you kind of like him in Cleveland. I would like him in Cleveland as well. I think that'd be a good coaching staff for him. You know, maybe not first overall, but if they grab him at their next first round pick, he would definitely be a good spot. I would definitely be a good spot for Cleveland there.
Yeah, and I think when you look at what he was trying to do with that offense and kind of the playmakers that they have with Gary Barnes at tight end, you have Coleman and Terrell Pryor and Duke
Right.
and Crowell out of the backfield, and I even think that offensive line got slandered a little bit too much because they lost Joel Bitonio to an injury, and he's an
Right.
all-pro caliber player when he's healthy. And even when you go back and watch, a lot of those sacks were really just Josh McCown holding the ball for way too long, and
Exactly.
you can only block for so long before you eventually give up a sack. So I think that when you look at a situation where you have Hugh, who's a good offensive coach, and they already have a lot of weapons in place, and the Browns, they were third in the league in rushing yards per carry. So it's not like he would have to carry out the full load as soon as he got there. I think that'd be a really great spot for him to land.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, Cleveland's disaster scenario was the fact that they had to play so many quarterbacks. There's just no way to have a good year, New England aside, if you have to use as many different quarterbacks with different kind of skill sets, strengths, and weaknesses. But I mean, the rest of the offense, I think that they'll be fine. What they're missing is a guy kind of like a Deshaun Watson, somebody that they can trust to do whatever the case may be. If they need to put him in and run the ball with them, they can do that. If they want to run up tempo, they can do that. If they want to push the ball down the field, he can do that as well. They're not going to be sacrificing anything by drafting a guy with his skill set.
Yeah, I agree. So I think this is a good place to end the first episode of Good, Bad, and Ugly. Do you have anything you're working on that you want to plug that's coming up in the next couple of days?
I just published an additional post to like what I was kind of talking about scouting wise that you can find on coveragecheck.wordpress.com. I kind of do a whole lot of scheme stuff, scouting stuff that way. I'm contributing for Just Blog Baby, so a lot of the draft scouting stuff I'm going to be doing on specific players will be found there. So yeah, you could check me out at either one of those places within the coming kind of weeks and see what I'm working on from there.
All right, and what Twitter account so people can follow you?
Absolutely. So you'll find me at DL Blacks. That is DLBLAXX on Twitter.
All right, sounds good. And we'll be back next week, probably with a look at Iowa's defensive tackle, Jaleel Johnson, who is just an absolute stud. All right, so
I can't wait.
Yeah. So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll be back.